Hello and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Yusuf Aram. In the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, July 20th, 1974 remains a defining date. It's when Ankara intervened to protect Turkish Cypriots from ethnic violence. 51 years later, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is doubling down on calls for a two-state solution, echoed at the United Nations by Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan. But Cyprus today is more than just a lingering conflict. It's become a geopolitical fault line where battles over energy, territory, and influence are drawing in new players and raising new stakes. Once centered on Gaza and Syria, Türkiye's tensions with Israel now extend to a divided Cyprus. Israeli investors are snapping up land across the island, including in areas Ankara sees as critical to Turkish Cypriot security. At the same time, the Greek Cypriot administration is tightening defense ties with Israel. They're also exploring deeper cooperation with India, whose Prime Minister Modi recently visited the island amid growing interest in an economic corridor connecting India and Europe. With energy trade and influence at stake, is Cyprus becoming the next front in a regional power struggle? For more, joining me now from Athens is Pantheon University professor Dimitrios Triantafylou. From the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus is Sait Aksit. He's an associate professor at Near East University. And from Istanbul, Marmara University professor and director of its International Relations Research Center, Zuhal Mert Uzuner. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining me. Now, we talk about Cyprus periodically on this show, very important for Türkiye. But we generally concentrate on 1974, a two-state solution, the situation inside the island. I want to take a more big picture view this time around because with all that's going on in the near geography, the geopolitical importance of Cyprus is definitely upgraded. Dimitrios, I want to start with you. Do you feel that Cyprus has been upgraded in many foreign policy portfolios lately, especially Greece, Türkiye, Israel, India?
Yes, I mean, you don't want to start with 1974, but I think part of the reason why we still have a Cyprus-Syrian problem has to do with its geopolitical importance and why third states, be it Cyprus, be it Turkey, be it Greece, or be it other countries, want to have a say and a stake in what's happening in Cyprus. Given its strategic value, it was important during the Cold War years, and it's become even more important nowadays, given, as you said, the developments around the region. It's the closest EU member state to the Middle East. It has acted as a way, because of the two British bases, and in particular because the Republic of Cyprus has shifted its position when it comes to the US and the West in particular. It's always been from a non-allied tradition. It's moved on to a pro-Western stand, in particular since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, where a small country like Cyprus said that it cannot on its own care for its defense needs, and therefore it seems to have aligned itself more with US and French and other interests. And in that sense, it has become more relevant. It has become relevant also in terms of, it tried to launch an initiative, a humanitarian corridor to Gaza, again, because of its proximity to the region. And also, on the other hand, energy is an issue that unites us and divides us in a way. It's an island in a region where we know that there are hydrocarbon finds, some of them more relevant than others, and there seems to be others that still need to be explored. So all of that has increased its significance.
Mm-hmm. Sait, after the Israel-Iran 12-day war, we're seeing increased interest by Israel in Cyprus. First of all, are you seeing an increased interest on the ground? Are there more Israelis? Are there more Israeli investment on the island? And why this increased interest, if there is that?
Yes, we do see actually increasing interest of the Israelis on the island, but particularly in the south nowadays. Interest in the north has been actually debated about a year ago. Certainly, there is an increasing interest in the north as well. The Israelis are buying property whether it's in the north or in the south. And this is basically being debated among different circles. In the north, we see the reaction of the right-wing parties, especially extreme right-wing groups, actually complaining about the Israeli interests and a greater Israeli strategy, the promised lands, and Cyprus being part of that. And in the south, actually, we see a leftist complaint about the increasing Israeli involvement in the south, particularly around the Larnaca region, and very much concentrated on buying or focused on buying property and doing investment in the south.
Zuad, after the Russia-Ukraine war started, there was an uptick of Russians on the island of Cyprus, also an uptick of Ukrainians as well, now an uptick of Israelis. It seems that Cyprus is kind of like the safe haven for those who want to get away from war, especially have the financial means to be able to come, invest, buy a home. Is this concerning from a Turkish perspective when you see many different foreign citizens from a country concentrate on the island in a short period of time?
Actually, Cyprus became always a very important financial center when we look at its background. It's not only depending on Russian or Israel or another, let's say, the certain actor we can give now. We see that some concentrations exist in Cyprus today about these settlements. Maybe not all the regions, but some sensitive points can be seen, especially about Pillar region. I know there is a kind of sensitive developments about these settlements of foreign, let's say, the people. From Turkish perspective, there are some risks and opportunities, according to me, because when we look at these developments, Cyprus is not apart from Ukrainian conflict, and Cyprus is not apart from the wider geopolitical discussions by starting from these trading routes, energy routes, and also some let's say geopolitical power competition. So from that approach, that can be a kind of factor to discuss about this flow of people to that island. Actually, it is not the basic point, according to me. I mean, the existence of foreign people in the island may not create by itself a problem if it's not transforming somehow another, let's say, the bigger factor with some other channels. Now we don't have at that, let's say, the developments.
Dimitrios, same question to you. Are the Greeks concerned by this new uptick in I shouldn't say foreign citizens, but foreign visitors, new cash flow coming in, buying up land? Is this a new dynamic where Athens is saying, well, this could be concerning?
Well, listen, I mean, in a way, having a lot of interest from foreigners means that you reduce the risk of instability on the island. I mean, in that sense, it's not concerning. What's interesting, though, is that there has been a change. Cyprus, particularly the South Republic, was home to a lot of Russian dirty money, and because of EU rules and pressures on the government, a lot of the Russians have moved out, and their activities have been curbed. And as I said, as the shift has moved, Cyprus, the government has taken a decision to be more entrenched to the degree that it can in the Western camp, or especially with the US and the French and so on, and now the Israelis. I think this is sort of welcomed by the majority of the Cypriots because it just shows how relevant the island is, and therefore it creates a feeling that that it's not just Greece that's on Cyprus's side, but also other countries, and in that sense, I think it could be a factor of stability. But because, again, as I said, these new investors, or these, whether they're individuals or companies or so on, are a part of this camp that Cyprus seems to be firmly entrenched in Greeks, Israelis, Americans, and the rest.
Saeed, very recently, the Indian Prime Minister Modi visited the island. A very important visit when you look at Modi and one of the more important world leaders. Huge country, a lot of money, emerging economy, and visiting Cyprus, a small island, member of the EU, quite quite interesting. How did you view that visit? What was the South saying about it? How did the North feel about it?
Actually, it has been an interesting visit, but well, I mean, from a historical perspective, it's not unexpected. The timing is very delicately scheduled as well. It's basically read from the Turkish side as a message to Turkey, which supported Pakistan during the India-Pakistan conflict, recent India-Pakistan conflict. And here, basically, we see a reactionary position towards Turkey. And towards the Turkish position on the island as well. But of course, what's not surprising is the fact that India and the Greek Cypriot administration, I mean, the Republic of Cyprus had historically very good relations through the non-aligned movement. That's a point that we need to make. And of course, we need to also emphasize the fact that Cyprus is going to assume the EU Council presidency at the beginning of 2026, and they're using this as a strong impediment to actually further their relations through European channels as well. And we need to emphasize the fact that the other factor that has been important here has been the IMAC Corridor, right? India, Middle East, Europe corridor, which is to connect basically South Asia through the Middle East with Europe. And Cyprus is basically looking for a role in that corridor as well. The corridor is scheduled especially to focus on Greece or Italy as a path to Europe, and for a little island like Cyprus, this is a great opportunity to play an important role.
Mm-hmm. Zuhal, Said just mentioned that Cyprus will be assuming the rotating presidency. I really wanted to get into this during the program. Will that put a block or be a major obstacle for Turkey's relationship with the EU, or is that something that Turkey is not too concerned about? It'll continue moving forward with Brussels?
It's obvious that that will create somehow a kind of tension from the explanations of Recep Tayyip Erdogan, Turkish president. It's clear that Turkey will not change its standpoint about Cyprus issue, so it will not lead any kind of recognition-like step in the let's say the developments. So this is a very important and sensitive issue right now for Turkish foreign policy, we can see. But what will happen as a part of the relations between Turkey and EU is another issue, because we can see the other steps and other mechanisms to continue the negotiations and the discussions about ongoing, let's say, the negotiations. So we can see that it will continue with low-level discussions, I can say. But of course, we can say that it may be a kind of topic, a kind of, let's say, the matter of decrease, maybe at the high-level discussions.
Mm-hmm. Dimitrios, I think one of the most important things over this past decade has been the establishment of these new trade routes, especially those linking China to Europe. But another important trade route being discussed, the IMEC, linking India to Europe, and that important route obviously touching Israel and most likely going through the island of Cyprus as well. How important is IMEC being set up for the island? How important is it for Greece as well?
I think it's very important. Remember, I mean, it's not too long ago, it was on the margins of the G20 meeting in New Delhi in September 2023. A memorandum of understanding was signed among the major actors regarding IMEC. And then a month later, you had October 7th, and that changed everything in the Middle East. So everything has been put on hold. It's a project that's on paper, but there seems to be momentum linked to the Abraham Accords, and which is something that the architect was Donald Trump during his first term. And from what we hear from Washington, this is a project that is meant to continue. It might change form, right? A lot of it's predicated upon Israel normalizing relations with the Saudi Arabia and some other Arab countries, maybe including Syria, where you hear a lot of talk how IMEC might not just be that original route that's been shown on the map right now, but it might also be other routes that might go through Syria or elsewhere. At the same time, I think an indication of the changing trends in globalization, where you have a number of projects that are going to be competing with each other and not necessarily excluding each other. So just like the middle corridor is becoming relevant, where Turkey does play a role and it's trying to enhance its position there, so is the northern corridor through the Arctic. So you will have 3 or 4 corridors that might compete with each other, but will not necessarily be one, if not one, then the other. And I think in that sense, IMEC is important because it enhances connectivity, and enhancing connectivity among different actors in particular regions that are tense also leads in a way to pressure on the stakeholders in the region to diffuse tensions among themselves. And so in that sense, I think the developments are interesting. And again, it's interesting because India's role is crucial here. India's role is crucial because we're always starting to talk about a united global south. Well, it's not necessarily united, and India is a rising actor, and it also wants to differentiate itself from China. It has its own agenda, in general, and therefore, in that sense, I think a lot is predicated upon what's happening in Gaza and the other conflicts in the Middle East. But once these sort of stabilize, we know very much that this IMEC will probably go forward. And in that sense, Cyprus, which the only thing it can do, given its size, maybe be a transit state, as opposed to other countries that can also maybe be part of the chain of production of different goods. Cyprus will be a transit state in that sense, but for Cyprus, I think it strengthens the belief that it's an actor based on its size and its geography, and whereby pressure will be put not only on the Republic of Cyprus, but in the north, but also on Turkey and Greece and other stakeholders to ensure that tensions are reduced. And in that sense, also, last thing I should say, this is, I think, also very much linked to to the EU in that sense, and Cyprus's presidency. Yes, it's 6 months of the EU, and we know that, from what I understand from the Greek press, this was also the product of conversation between Hakan Fidan and Nikos Christodoulidis on the margins of their meeting in New York recently. I don't think anybody, even the Republic of Cyprus, wants to disrupt relations with Turkey in that sense. And I don't think a country holding the presidency, other than the big countries of the EU, have the capacity to disrupt relations with third countries, right? The presidency is there to preside and to make sure that the agenda is pushed forward, never mind the differences. So I think these are all issues that are crucial in the great game that is being shaped post-conflict, during the conflict in the Middle East, and where our region, Cyprus, Turkey, Greece, Israel, and other countries of the region, play a part of it. And I think that's how I think this should be viewed.
Said, I want to ask you how Turkish Cypriots are viewing IMAC Corridor. Is it a project that they're liking? Is it something where they see eye to eye with Greek Cypriots? Is that an issue that's actually unifying both sides?
It's very hard to say that it's being discussed in depth in the north, actually. That's one of the points that I need to make here. But of course, a corridor that passes through Cyprus and increases actually the transit nature of the island is going to favor not only the south, but the north as well. And in this sense, perhaps one of the aims of the north would be to try and encourage, similar sort of benefits that the Greek Cypriots generate through such corridors. But it's not very easy, I mean, given the conditions of the conflict on the island. We have to admit that. Perhaps one of the defining factors there will be Turkey's position and how Turkey defines its position vis-a-vis the corridors. I mean, one of the things that we see in the case of Turkey is an attempt to be part of different corridors. And as Dimitri has emphasized, these corridors can be viewed as competing, but not exclusionary to each other. So we need to emphasize that factor, right? And of course, one of the things that I should add here, if I may put a short comment regarding your earlier question concerning this the Cyprus presidency and Turkey relations. I think when compared to the previous period that Cyprus served as the president of the council, I think that was back in 2012, where all relations between Turkey and EU was frozen. I think we will see different attempts at building bridges here. In the rhetoric in the Greek Cypriot administration, we see actually a great emphasis on trying to establish a route for Turkey's, membership in the EU. Okay, not really furthering it, but at least taking steps in order to further EU's relations with Turkey. And we know that recently the Greek Cypriots made an offer concerning, concerning the opening of the ports versus, a visa ease for Turkey, which I believe very much, not a very compatible negotiation point in itself, because, opening of the ports and the benefits it provides is much greater than actually visa sort of exemptions could provide for Turkey in this sense. And, we need to remember the fact that the negotiations of, opening of Turkish ports has been very much connected to opening ports in the northern part of Cyprus as well. Here basically trying to establish direct connection of the north with the international community.
Mm-hmm. Zuhal, I want to ask you about the organization of Turkic states. Now, Turkish Cypriots, they're an observing member. They were hoping to get some type of recognition, it seems, over the past 1 or 2 years since they got observing member status, but they haven't gotten what they hoped for. And diplomatic relations between the South and members of the organization of Turkic states, especially Kazakhstan and a couple other members, seems to be, I shouldn't say strong, but at least more than neutral. Do you see Central Asian states enhancing their relationship with Cyprus as well?
In this, the presidency term, I understand your question. Mm-hmm. Most probably, they will try to create more bridges with EU, because when we first see this agreement between EU and the Central Asian countries, it was clear that it is related with main economy and some strategic the benefits of these countries. So it is the same for today India's visit and the others. So we can see that EU membership creates an extra benefit for the Greek Cypriot leadership. So we can see that this support will continue somehow to Turkish Cypriots on the one side, but I suppose that they will try to keep this the project to be much more integrated with European sphere. Actually, whatever we do as Türkiye, it is also related with being a hub or a kind of transit route for connectivity with East and West, between East and West. So we cannot say that Türkiye is working against this kind of initiatives. It is sure that Türkiye wants to create this kind of connection between different actors. It's also including China and other actors. Türkiye is open for different initiatives. But we can say that Cyprus problem will not be a minor issue at the table. It is very strategic and very important priority of Turkish foreign policy. And I don't think that it will change in short run from this perspective. So I can say that the support coming from Central Asian and Caucasian Azerbaijan is a part of this support will continue. But in short run, maybe it is difficult to see any kind of recognition.
Dimitrios, Said, Zuhal, thanks for joining me. Great conversation. And that's all for this edition of Straight Talk with me, Yusuf Aram. If you got any comments, please share them with us on X at Straight Talk TRT. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can find more exclusive content. Until next time, take care and goodbye.